lately there's been a lot happening, and with that comes a lot of information. But honestly, what people really need right now isn't just updates. It's reassurance, it's a bit more clarity, and a feeling that things are being handled. So today we're opening our doors to KAIZEN Asset Management Services, not for a formal update, but for a very real and honest conversation about it. I'm Mariam Zahid, and I'm hosting this conversation today. And I'm really glad to be joined by the team who is actually behind everything happening on ground, ensuring communities are being run smoothly every single day. And I have with me today Randa Ahmed, who is the Chief Experience Officer at KAIZEN Asset Management Services. We have Anas Gahshan with us, who is the Director of Facility Management and Sustainability. We have Ahmed Bahi and Muattaz, who are the Senior Portfolio Managers. So this isn't going to be anything too formal, just a conversation about what's happening, how things are being managed, and what readiness actually looks like behind the screen. So over to you, Randa, on sharing some insights about what's happening on the ground.
Thank you first, Mariam, for having all of us today. And actually in KAIZEN, here, either in these kind of circumstances or any other circumstances, during certainty or uncertainty, anxiety or safety, the first thing we look at is people before we look at before we look at systems, before we look at any kind of tools. We look at people, and we start looking at people from a resident perspective. Then we go to our employees, service providers, authorities, and every other stakeholder, and all of this to deliver to our residents the best case scenario of the assurance, either to let them be up to date about the information, depending on a very reliable sources of data, depending on what we are doing to guarantee that everything is perfect, depending also on what we think that the best next action to do for now. So we started from having lots of channels of communication, getting the information from authorities, which is a reliable source of information, not listening to rumors or to any kind of newspapers, sending an update every now and then, and depending on the fact that we want our owners to be prepared. Then we went for looking at our systems from a perspective of people, what we can do to help people, where we have inspected all our systems, being ready for elderly, children, or our normal residents, where we have wheelchairs, evacuation chairs, first aid kits, red boxes, any kind of also required training for our service providers, our community managers, portfolio managers, property managers, everybody on the ground. We increased also the number of resources deployed. We have trained everybody. Adding to this, we kept feedback going back to the authorities to keep them informed about what we are doing and how we are doing it. Also, all of this was happening with along of taking care of the sanity check of our residents while we are doing all of this.
So you mentioned about the sanity check on residents, and I saw that KAIZEN is actually taking some measures on the wellness of the residents. So is that well-being, or are those well-being sessions free of charge, or like do residents have to pay for that service?
Yeah, actually we have created recently 2 programs added to our previous programs. We created mental well-being programs, which is totally free for residents, where we have had an agreement with a very reliable psychiatrist, where we had online sessions for all of our residents. We have communicated the timing, where they can come online, discuss any kind of things which worry them, how to handle their kids while there is these kind of circumstances, while there is online tutoring and working from home, what kind of mechanisms they can use to secure everybody and make everybody a little bit assured. Adding to this, we've done online community clubs, where we have kids to be having games, also some of activities which we can do online with all residents, not only kids, which can make them away from being a little bit anxious.
And are you sharing a lot of, are you seeing a lot of engagement and participation from your residents in these clubs?
Yeah, actually the participation was very high, and even we received lots of positive feedback about how this was helping into taking them all into a little bit more assuredness and more kind of calmness when they are dealing with such situations.
I wanted to ask, what is the strategy of Kaizen today to deal with any emergency situations?
Mariam, I will explain what happened behind the scene. Mainly, we transform our emergency preparedness strategy from paper into measurable, specific activities. Our team, service provider, and suppliers are experienced to deal with those activities and accountable for the result. Mainly, we are dividing our emergency preparedness strategy into three components. The strategy, where we focus on the rules, responsibility, escalation metrics, and communication metrics. Then we are focusing on second pillar, which is the operation, where we focus on the readiness of the asset, communication with service provider, and reporting mechanism. The third pillar, where we are focusing on the emergency consumables and emergency coordination with stakeholders.
Anis, you mentioned about the operational readiness or asset readiness. So what exactly are the actions that you're taking from that aspect that makes Kaizen extra ready today?
We are making sure that our projects are equipped with the major spare parts and consumables. This is including the major supplies like water, diesel, and spare parts, critical spare parts for MEP, firefighting, elevator components, absolutely in addition to first aid kit, red box, evacuation, and wheelchairs. Not only that, furthermore, we are making sure that the service provider and FM team and the project team are ready to use those consumables first. Second, we are storing them in a specific and secure place. Third point, we are making sure that the service provider of the project are ready to deal with any scenarios.
Right, so you basically mentioned that you're storing the consumables. I wanted to ask, how long do you think these consumables can last you? Is it 6 months, a year, or for how long?
Based on the current situation, we are ready to secure our spare parts and major consumables for 6 months. And as you know, the emergency strategy is not a fixed strategy, it's a live strategy. So we are doing re-evaluating for the strategy on regular basis, ideally on weekly basis. So whenever we see and evaluate the need to make it for a year, we are ready for that.
With all what is happening in the vaccine, what I want our residents to feel is calm, clarity, and confidence. We don't want our residents to feel overwhelmed. We want them to feel supported. That's why communication is just as important as operation. We guide them on what to do. We are available 24/7. We want them to feel supported because at the end, preparedness is not only operational, it's emotional as well.
Very true. Yeah. So, Bahi, basically you mentioned the end goal is to make sure that your residents feel calm, they feel secure and confident in everything you're doing, and you're actually putting in a lot of efforts too. But I want to ask you, as a portfolio manager, do you feel that your residents today feel the confidence in Kaizen with everything that you're doing around?
Actually, Mariam, I can say yes, we succeeded to make our residents feel safe and confident because they have seen our team available on ground along with the resources. And as Randa mentioned earlier, we have received an appreciation messages, nice one, across all our communication channels.
Further to what Ahmed mentioned about the confident, I just want to add something here. Confident, it's not only for the residents, it's also with the owners committee. When we keep them up to date about Kaizen strategy on ground, what we are doing in reality, and they are appreciate what we are mentioned to them. And the owners committee really appreciated what we have shared with them and what we have done on ground. And it's not only about the owners committee, it's about all stakeholders. and also KAIZEN usually keep the authorities up to date about what we are doing on ground, step by step. And also, Mariam, I want to highlight something here. In KAIZEN, from the operation perspective, we always look at one question. If something happened right now, are we truly ready for these circumstances? Not on paper, not in plans, but in reality. That's why we physically verify everything. Safety equipment, emergency system, team response capability. We walk through the buildings, our community. We test, we challenge assumption. Because simply, safety is not a document. Safety it's a condition that must exist every single day.
Motaz, you mentioned about staying up to date with authorities, and I think previously maybe Randa mentioned about the same as well. So I wanted to ask, like, is KAIZEN directly in touch with authorities, and what you're sharing with the residents, which Bahi also mentioned on doubling down with the residents in these times to stay up to keep them informed. What you're informing your residents is coming directly from the authorities and back and forth. How is that working right now?
I would like to add here one more point. What make our emergency plan is complete and comprehensive, that four successful factors. The first one is communication. We have close communication with authorities, and accordingly we are the right source of providing the information to our resident. Yeah. Second point, we have alignment. Our team in the ground and the middle management with top management are completely aligned. So we have clear strategy, rules, and responsibility from bottom to top. Third point, which is coordination. We have close coordination with our vendor, service provider. This is making our emergency preparedness more solid. Last point, which I would like to highlight, which is the asset readiness. Asset readiness, when we have any emergency, we take the chance to test our readiness. For example, within the recent rain, we test our readiness. Our emergency preparedness plan is not a fixed document, it's a live document. We are also learning from the scenarios. We are testing our readiness. We are getting the knowledge and experience, and then updating our strategy and make sure all the stakeholders are familiar and experienced to execute the strategy.
You mentioned recent rainstorm, and that reminds me that I know KAIZEN manages a huge portfolio, including the villas and the townhouses, and given your strategy and extra preparedness towards the emergency responses, was everything smooth during the rainstorm as a management company?
What I think that the team is trying to do here is that we grow and we match to our name. KAIZEN in general means continuous improvement. During last year rain and 2024 rain, it took us for one of our complicated communities, which handled by Motaz, 8 hours to clear all the roads and clean everything. For last year took us 4 hours, this year took us 2 hours. And we were more prepared. So we do lessons learned, and we keep improving every single time we do something. And we also look at the feedback from our residents, where we do a defect management. We will look what we have done, how we have done it, how we can do it in a more productive way, how we can do it in more less cost to the communities, and at the same time faster. This will also ensure that the stakeholders will always trust us, and also the government will always have more reliable action with us. So how can I say, they can relate to what we have done. One of the examples, for example, we had the spring break during the last rain. In one of our communities, there was around 24 very high-level cars in one of the basements, and we were having some worriness that the water will be a little bit overwhelming.
Stuck in the basement.
Yes. So out of those, there were around 10 residents who are outside of the country. So we have done everything with the authorities where we have been sure that we called them at 1 a.m. in the morning, 2 a.m. in the morning, personal calls where we have took their permission to move the cars to another place where it cannot be touched by the water and it cannot be really influenced.
Safe.
These kind of things make customers really appreciate what we do on a personal level and make authorities, it was also a big point with authorities that we care enough to call customers on international calls and try to get them even in very late hours to give us permission to move their cars. This is a very small example, but it extends to other things which is bigger than this. And this cannot be done without the efforts of the team on the ground, community manager, property managers, FM teams, our customer experience teams online, and everybody else, starting from leadership to down, because literally we try to improve ourselves, compared with ourselves, not with anybody else, every single day.
Yeah, I also would like to add one last point. Our resident asset is our asset, exactly as highlighted by my colleague Randa. Like, we are accountable for the result. We are accountable for their asset, and this is Kaizen. We are adding value for every single activities we are doing.
Yeah, and I think what really stands out from this conversation today is that a lot of what happens behind the scene, it goes unnoticed. And that is exactly what keeps everything steady for everyone else. And it's reassuring to see that there are teams like this, thinking ahead, planning ahead, showing up every single day with that level of responsibility. So thank you so much to everyone for speaking about this so openly today. And I think conversations like this really matter today. And to everyone listening, we hope that this gave you a bit more clarity and, more importantly, a bit more reassurance, because preparedness is not something that you hear, it's something you feel.